the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin, and today's topic is masks and other kinds of costumes or things that allow us to play different roles and express different parts of our being. And we get to explore those different parts today and see if there's a way we might be able to expand our expression in the world. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, and creating this brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together and really softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms, just to feel the deliciousness of that sensation, to really bring yourselves present to that sensation and the miracle of our physical form that allows us actually to experience life. And so welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great to be here with you as always. And today we're going to talk about masks. And I'm talking kind of, good morning, Roslyn. So good to have you here with us. Welcome, welcome. In talking about masks, I know that we can wear masks in life without wearing any masks, metaphorical masks. But I'm wanting to start out by talking about the things that we can do to change our persona, on a temporary basis that enables us to have a greater freedom, in playing roles, for instance, rather than our normal, in big quotes, normal lifetime roles. So, for instance, when you're at a masquerade ball, or Halloween, or in a play, even if you're not wearing a mask, you're taking on a different identity, a different role, or a wig for that matter. There is a certain freedom that we afford ourselves to express different aspects of our being that might not otherwise gain expression. I have a funny story. I was participating in a training years ago, and we had a party, and at the party, I think it was meant to be like a masquerade party or, costume party, whatever. And I had this wig. This was before I lost my hair. Good morning, Julie. Welcome. It's great to have you joining us. We're talking about masks today. And really, really what we're talking about is expanding our range in our expression in the world. But anyway, I had this wig, and at the time I had hair. My hair was really dark brown, like almost black brown. And so I wore this wig, and it was blonde, and it was long, and it was sort of curly. And it was not a golden blonde. It was more of a silvery blonde, more like a platinum blonde kind of blonde. And it was clear that I was who I was, but here I was with this long blonde hair. And I was amazed at how differently people responded to me, how differently people treated me in the context of that evening, just because of this difference in appearance. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. The men fawned over me that really never gave me another look when I was brunette, out of this context. And I just was amazed by it. And so when that's talking about people's response to me in this different role or different appearance. And when we put on these different appearances, maybe it's even, a certain outfit, that gives us license. So we can dress up in a certain way that gives us license to express parts of ourselves that we might not otherwise express. And I think that there is a freedom in anonymity that allows us to potentially expand our range of expression. And I'm recognizing, obviously, there are certain social prohibitions to expressing certain parts of ourselves, right? Like we might have anger, but there are certain social prohibitions. You don't want to be going and expressing that anger by knocking things over and punching people out and, doing all kinds of destructive things. Although some people do that, there are social prohibitions against it. And I can see where, like in a play, for instance, to be able to play the role of a villain could be kind of liberating, because those portions of ourselves are portions that are unexpressed, typically, not, and I'm not just talking about shadow parts, but we tend to live our lives within kind of a narrow range, right? Like, this is who I am, this is how I act, this is what I do, this is how I look, this is how I dress, and stepping outside of that lane can be tremendously uncomfortable. And it's also can be very unsettling for the people around us, right? If they don't, because they think they know who we are, and then we act in a very different way. It can be really disruptive and unsettling. And I was thinking about this because I collect masks. I know some people get creeped out by masks, but I'm not a huge collector, but I have a handful of masks, and a number of them are African wooden masks, or several of them, not a number. I have like literally a handful or so. But I find masks to be fascinating. And I think that, right now is the first time I'm actually looking at why am I so fascinated by masks. But I think that part of it is that I'm very fascinated about the nature of consciousness and how we express ourselves and personality, and there can be a ritual sort of aspect to masks too, which is really interesting because they can invoke certain personas or spirits. So Rosalind says masks like from the Jim Carrey movie. You know what? I'm going to confess, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't even comment on it. But I have these wonderful carved wooden masks from Africa that have all kinds of animals and horns on them, like animal horns and birds and all kinds of other wonderful imagery. And I resonate with them, and I also have a Mardi Gras mask, so that is a mask that I could more readily wear. And when there is this anonymity, we often will allow ourselves freedom to express more of ourselves than we would, or different aspects of ourselves than we would express when we are visible, when we have to be accountable to our behavior. Very interesting. And I think it would be fun to talk more about it. Jenny, welcome. Good morning. It's great to have you here with us. So Jenny says, good morning. I lost my hair 4 times due to chemotherapy for AML leukemia 2 times and a stem cell transplant 2014 to 2015. Jenny, it sounds like you've been through it. Stem cells are amazing though. And this just sounds like you've been through the ringer. So Jenny says, good thing for a nicely shaped head. You are bold and beautiful with your lovely shaped head. Thank you so much, Jenny. I really, really appreciate it. And so Jenny says, authentic expression. Exactly. I wore a wig and so this is another way, mask kind of thing, is I wore a wig for 13 years. And I realized that I was wearing the wig because I, on some level, felt shame, even though I told people I was wearing a wig. Anybody would say, oh, what a great haircut. I'd say, you can have one too. You can get it online. But it was different to be wearing a wig and be transparent in the acknowledgement of it versus just saying, hey, this is what's there. So I lost my hair due to alopecia, and I had a stem cell treatment several years back. And as a result, my eyebrows have been growing back and my eyelashes have been growing back. And I have some sprouts that are growing back on my head, but not enough to have a head of hair at this point. So periodically I shave my head and we'll see what happens, as my body does its thing. I hope to have another stem cell treatment. I banked my stem cells, so they're still available for me to be able to use them and see what happens. But I hope that you, Jenny, are fully recovered. It sounds, as I said, that you've been through it, and I hope you're doing well. So Julie says, cool masks are so cool. I agree with you 100%. And when we allow ourselves to align with the mask, like if we can be an expression of that mask, that's something that's pretty exciting. And the thing is with the wigs, I know somebody who had a bunch of different wigs and would wear a different wig all the time, to embody all these different aspects of herself. And I thought, that's kind of cool. I never did that because I was kind of attached to the wig as my identity, like that this is who I was. But it could be really fun to do that, to create these different personas and allow expression of different aspects of our being. So Jenny says, I received dull cord blood from Germany. Wow. I'm wondering how it worked for you. Yes. So Jenny says, I disliked wigs, itchy and hot. Yes, indeed, they are hot and itchy. And you have to do something so that they don't necessarily slide around on your head as well. So the whole wig thing is a challenge. It's different if you are wearing a wig just because of choice or because of play. I mean, it's always a choice, right? I finally chose not to, but Dennis says, good. Okay, I'm going to totally destroy this. Gut Frau, pretty lady. Thank you. I'm guessing you're saying, Dennis, you have all these different languages. So thank you. Maybe it's good. Maybe you're saying good morning. I'm not certain, but anyway, good morning to you. So uh, masks, and I think we can extrapolate this whole conversation to be talking about how we create our own personas of who we are, and from that persona, that is in a way a mask that we wear to the world. Good morning, Elaine. We're talking about masks and how with real masks, or when we allow ourselves to wear a mask and become anonymized in some way or shape or form, that we give ourselves permission to express these different parts of ourselves that we don't otherwise express. And so all this conversation kind of leads to this notion. You guys may have heard about the metaverse. I'm not talking about Facebook renaming itself to be Meta. I'm talking about the metaverse, which is a virtual world or a collection of virtual worlds that are being developed for people to be able to experience entertainment, do gaming, learning, all kinds of other things in a 3D simulated environment, using a headset, or sometimes you can access in limited capacity on your computer. And in these virtual worlds, you get to create an avatar. And people do that in social media and on a lot of these social communication channels. You create a name and an avatar and a persona, and you get to be somebody that you're not. You get to behave in ways that you wouldn't normally behave. And that, I'm not talking just about darkness, for instance. Oh, so good for you to stop by, Julie. It was wonderful to have you joining us. And Jenny says, 6 years ago, August 5th, 2015, I've been in complete remission total. My DNA is donor cells. That's so awesome, Jenny. Congratulations. So glad to hear that you made it through that very, very challenging time, and that you're in complete remission. That's awesome. So we're talking about, in a loose way, we're talking about identities, but we're talking about how there are so many aspects of ourselves that we keep leashed. Some it's really good that we keep leashed, right? Because there would be dangerous or damaging to ourselves or others. And there are other parts of ourselves that we harness out of maybe shyness or out of fear, where we don't make ourselves as visible as we might be if we were wearing a mask, for example, and or wearing a wig, for example, also, because I was telling the story about how I wore this wig and people responded to me completely differently. And, I wasn't as attuned to it, but I may have acted differently. When we take on a different role, whether it's in appearance or, in a given context, we act differently. We source different aspects of our beingness. And so when we talk about this is who I am, and we've addressed this from a whole bunch of different vantage points over the past couple of weeks, but when we talk about this is who I am is not a fixed commodity. who I am is very much a function of what is present in a given moment. And, it's interesting. Um, in my life, I've had very different friends. And when I was growing up, the different friendships, and I think this is probably still the case in some way or another, but the different friendships brought out different aspects of my beingness. Like I could explore and express different parts of myself with different people. And it's interesting to see the whole idea of being a chameleon, to be blending in to different environments, different social circumstances. Uh, we might consider that that's not being authentically ourselves, but from another vantage point, it may also be giving ourselves license to express other aspects of our being. And probably uh, we I have the reason I'm stammering is because I have a whole bunch of conflicting thoughts, or a whole bunch of thoughts coming in all at once. And when we talk about being authentic, it doesn't mean that we're a one-trick pony. We can be authentically expressing ourselves in all different kinds of contexts and capacities in very different ways. Like when we talk about wearing different hats, that's kind of the same thing as wearing different masks. Although when we think about masks, we think about hiding behind a mask typically, but it's like we can carry on or carry off different personas that are all part of who we are. So Jenny says, my hair has grown back. It's so thin. I dislike how I look. I'm thinking of being bold and cutting it short. Go for it, Jenny. Cut it short or shave it off. Sounds like you have a nice head, so why not go for it? When I first lost my hair, or when I first was losing my hair, I couldn't stand seeing it fall into the sink. So I shaved my head, and I was trying to be bold and went to the gym, and people came up to me and told me they were praying for me. And I thought, you know what, that's a great sentiment. I appreciate that, but I don't want to be viewed that way. And that's when I started wearing a wig. And it's really interesting because since I took that wig off, I rarely have anybody interact with me from a place of, I want to say pity, a place of feeling bad for me, or feeling like, oh my gosh, she's got cancer, or whatever, because I don't want to be treated as if I'm not well. So, and I haven't had that since I chose um, to to take off the wig. People relate to me very differently, and I'm sure that that has to do with the fact that I relate to me very differently. At that time, I really was having a very hard time navigating the loss of my hair, and now it is what it is. It's really, really interesting. So Rosalind says, masking tape. Masking tape doesn't always catch the, oh, I'm sorry. There was a one before that I missed. So Rosalind said, painting. It's the fastest way to transform a room by changing the color of the walls. Exactly. I love that. And it's also, painting a room is also a way of taking ownership of that space. At least it always has been for me. It makes me know the space. It's a way to imprint yourself on the space as well. So it's been a ritual for me, coming into new places, to be painting the walls. That's a great point. And Rosalind says, masking tape doesn't always catch the unwanted paint. Even the painting is a pain to start. It's quite meditative. And even though the painting is a pain to start, it's quite meditative, and the space feels good after the color has changed. I agree. And even if it's the same color, I think that one of the reasons the space feels good is because you have given it love. You know, you have given it a part of yourself. And Jenny says, true about the friendships, that we express different aspects of ourselves in different friendships. And Rosalind says, I haven't decorated my fireplace room yet, waiting to paint the room before buying furniture after the color of the walls has changed. It's so amazing, the impact of color. I made my bathroom a really rich royal purple at one point, and it was awesome. I loved it. And my bedroom has sort of burnt orange walls, and my dining room has red, you know, like a really deep cherry red color. And it feels so good. I love color, which is interesting because I wear black so much, but I really, really, truly love color, and being in spaces with colored walls really makes a difference. And as I say that, I'm looking around the office that I'm in. It's white walls, but I painted them. So, you know, like it gave, or cream colored walls, it gave me a presence in the room. So let's see. Jenny says, rejection insecurities keep me from my true expression. Well, Jenny, you are not alone. And that's why people have such freedom. Well, we give ourselves such freedom when we have a mask, or if we're playing with wigs, for example, you know, we can jump out of our standard persona. So Jenny continues, people are so judgmental, it's hard on the self-esteem. It can be, you know, like as soon as I took off my wig, my dad was still alive. He said, I liked you better with the wig. And I said, you know what? I liked my appearance better with the wig as well, but this is what's there. So this is what I'm choosing. And he got it. So Jenny says it probably felt freeing without the wig, for sure, for sure. Elaine says, blissful blessings now all. Yes, indeed. Blissful blessings to all of us. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you all. I'm going to sign off, but I so appreciate your communication and your energy. Jenny says, I had a small room. I painted a pastel purple. I spent most of my time in there. I wish I could paint my apartment white walls. It affects mood and mindset. Absolutely. So paint them, and then paint them back before you leave. You know, that's an option, right? Anyway, I've got to run. This is always fun and always uplifting for me with you guys. I so appreciate you. And I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. I go live each weekday morning here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. And I encourage you to check out all the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network. And it was great to have you joining us, Jenny. Thank you. And to all of you, so appreciated. And until next time, lots and lots and lots of love. So we'll see you soon, I hope.